All right, y'all. This is Taylor Ursula of That's So Pisces, and we are now in the throes of our blue moon in Capricorn. Let's dive in. This is our second full moon in Capricorn this season. It's taking place at 29 degrees, and this is happening Sunday, July 21st at about 3 a.m. here on the West Coast. Okay, so a quick reminder too that we are also now in the bounds of the Mercury retrograde shadow, which adds a little bit of just a little something to this full moon. We also see Mars at the 29th degree of Taurus here at this full moon. We'll talk about that, but that's absolutely also adding a bit of oomph, a bit of push, a bit of emphasis into this full moon. And this full moon is at 29 degrees, which means that both the sun and the moon will be at 29 degrees, opposing each other. We have Mars at 29 degrees making a trine here to this moon, and Mars is also making a sextile to Neptune at 29 degrees of Pisces, and Neptune's also making a sextile to that full moon, which means the sun is also making a trine to Neptune. Lots of bodies here at this 29th degree, this critical degree that we've talked about before. What is this 29th degree about? There's something about finality here. There's something about urgency here. We have wrapped up everything else in all of the previous degrees. And so at 29 degrees, we know the bodies anticipate that they are about to move into the next sign, right? And the sun will move into Leo just hours after this, for example. There's this knowing that something has been completed, and there's a readiness to just gotta move, gotta go right now. So breaking this down, we see the moon enter into Capricorn on Friday. And Friday is Venus's day, and on this Friday we also see Venus making a trine to the North Node from Leo to Aries at 9 degrees. There's some sort of connection, perhaps, between who we know or what we have at this time that is demonstrating to us how we are aligning with our soul's path forward. At the same time, we'll see the moon in Capricorn make a square to the North Node at 9 degrees. So, somewhere where our resources or our interpersonal connections are aligning with a path forward, something emotional, something about what kind of nurturance we need or desire is in conflict with that node. It might be that with the moon here, technically in detriment, we are being asked to confront where we've minimized our own emotions. In order to make it to the North Node, we need to be able to reconcile that we can have and perhaps even ask for what we need or desire at this time. And the moon in Capricorn is uncomfortable doing that. The moon in Capricorn is used to hunkering down, pulling itself up by its bootstraps, kind of barreling through and containing its emotions in an effort to remain stoic and focused. However, we'll want to look at where doing so actually deprives us of making those connections between resources and or interpersonal connections that Venus is encouraging us to recognize. Venus in Leo is saying, it is about me to some extent. I do need to be a part of this. I do need to be acknowledged. And the moon in Capricorn feels like, no, hush there. Let's quiet those emotions. However, again, with the moon squaring these nodes, we have a choice here, and we are asked to at least consider what it might look like for us to lean into being seen or having those desires become visible the way that Venus and Leo wants us to. This is certainly tricky because the moon and Venus cannot see each other right now. Leo and Capricorn are signs that do not have visibility. And so we might feel this pull in different parts of our life. We might feel an urge or a yearning in one part in those desires, and we might feel elsewhere, sort of in the background, just kind of this discomfort of, am I sure? Can I really trust my feelings? Can I really trust allowing others to know my feelings? And where do I get these things to meet? On Saturday the 20th, we see Mars and Taurus make that sextile to Neptune, currently retrograde in Pisces at 29 degrees. And so this is where we might see some divine push on our part. Mars and Taurus has been slow and steady in order to win the race. It has been really making sure it's attuned to its self and its embodiment before it's ready to strike. There is something maybe artistic in this sextile. There is something maybe where we are able to kind of push through and go after something that we've been fantasizing about, or create some sort of circumstance of magic or creativity or divinity at this time. Mars then moves into Gemini. So, ending this Cancer season, we see Mars making that push, kind of entering into maybe some of this cultivation practice or process, and then making its way into Gemini, where it will spend the next several weeks multitasking, getting curious, experimenting, trying out different methods perhaps of figuring out how to make these kind of visions come true. We see the moon in Capricorn make a sextile to its ruler Saturn, currently retrograde in Pisces at 19 degrees. So this adds a little bit of grounding to what we are trying to put into motion now, bring to culmination. There may also be some sense of, again, taking on responsibility or recognizing where we need to slow down or sign up for more effort in order to make these things come to fruition. The moon makes a square to Chiron in Aries at 23 degrees, and perhaps in that conversation to Saturn, where we have been asked to slow down or take on more responsibility, we are triggered in a way. We are reminded of where we've had to do that in the past in a way that has maybe put limitations on who we are able to be authentically or spontaneously. However, we see a trine to Uranus at 26 degrees of Taurus, and so there might be some new pathway that we're able to discover in the present, recognizing that what's being triggered is in the past, and we have a different kind of agency in this moment. We have a different access to resources, connections, people, places, and things at this time. And so that trine to Uranus might support us transcending. That's usually a word I use for Neptune, but Uranus is kind of like, hey, I carved this path for you out of nowhere. Maybe it's been slowly building in the background, but it's becoming available to us or visible to us now. On Sunday, we reach our full moon. The moon opposes the sun at 29 degrees from Capricorn to Cancer. And then the moon makes a sextile to that retrograde Neptune in Pisces, the way that Mars did the day before. So the moon then catches up to what we were able to perhaps envision or make a push for at that time. We also see Venus in Leo make a sextile to Jupiter in Gemini at 12 degrees. And so there's a little bit of abundance here. There might be some benevolent energies coming through. We might see some of our efforts paying off at this time, right? Venus and Jupiter sort of represent that connection between our resources and our personal connections, our values, and kind of what opportunities might be appearing before us, what new blessings we might be able to step into. This is generally a really positive energy. We see Mercury in Leo make a square to Uranus in Taurus at 26 degrees, remembering that this is Mercury in its retrograde shadow, which means that we'll come back and see these aspects happening again once Mercury is retrograde, and then again when Mercury is direct and moving through this shadow one more time. So whatever the moon kind of activated in Uranus in terms of how we were going to navigate new pathways forward, there might be some disruption to our mind at this time, or Perhaps we are struggling to integrate some of these ideas. Perhaps we are overwhelmed by these new ideas. We're bursting with new possibilities. There is something being cracked open here in this square. Remembering too that Mercury is ruling Jupiter here, as well as Mars, newly in Gemini. So this square stands to kind of trickle outward into that Gemini part of our chart. And then into the parts of our charts that Jupiter rules, as well as Mars. So we're looking at Aries, which is of course the North Node in Chiron right now. We're looking at Scorpio. For Jupiter, we're looking at Pisces, which of course is Saturn, who's ruling this moon, and Neptune, as well as Sagittarius. So this kind of has a ripple effect at this moment. Wherever Mercury is in Leo in your chart right now, just getting a sense of where this square to Uranus to Taurus is really opening up kind of some big themes across our chart. On Sunday, we also see the Sun in Cancer make the trine to Neptune that I mentioned before. And there is some sort of transcendence here, perhaps. Perhaps we're able to attune to a sense of spirituality. Perhaps we are a bit overwhelmed, again, with that Mercury-Uranus square. But this trine to Neptune kind of provides us with a bigger, broader sense of what might be possible here. And we also see Mars, newly in Gemini, making a trine to Pluto retrograde in Aquarius at 0 degrees. So we end this lunation cycle with a bit of kind of deepening an understanding of our motivations, right? We've been talking about the Strength card and how it's our card of the year and how we are realigning our instincts. Mars here, newly in Gemini, who again is going to kind of multitask and experiment, get curious and try out different methods. Getting that trine to Pluto at 0 degrees means that Mars is walking into Gemini with some kind of anti-Gemini energy. Pluto is very deep, right? Pluto pulls us deep within, asks us to get introspective, asks us to assess what power feels like within us and how we wield it. Mars is then the driving force of acting on that sense of power. So these planets are certainly connected in that I think of them as co-ruling Scorpio, right? And so it's important that they get to have this connection here and allow us some deeper insight into when I experiment, when I get curious, what power am I exercising there? What does this teach me more about myself and my motivations? And how can I become more conscious of this? Okay, so much energy striking at this full moon. Let's do a quick recap of our lunation cycle thus far, and then we'll go ahead and pull and see what is coming up at this second Capricorn full moon, so stay tuned. Okay, here we go. Here's our recap, starting with our Cancer new moon pull, followed by our Libra first quarter moon pull. If you missed either of these, you definitely want to pause here and click on these videos up here, recap this for yourself, revisit these narratives, and meet us back here and we'll pull for this dynamic full moon. Okay, let's go ahead and get this started. All right, so a reminder that if you want to pull along, you can do so by visiting priestessbaby.com and downloading this free moon phase PDF. All right, so today we are asking about a situation culminating now in the light of this full moon and how we can make space for this situation or revelation, right? And what we are able to celebrate in the light of this full moon, as well as what we can begin to release, prepare to release. Maybe that big release comes in the third quarter moon, but once that moon is full and we see what's coming to the surface, we get very clear on what is not coming to the surface, right? So what we can identify that is ready for release. Okay, and we'll look under the deck to see what stories are making themselves kind of known beneath the surface here. Okay. All right. Okay. we are maybe defending something at this full moon. All right, I'm getting Mars energy, thinking again about Mars, making that sextile to Neptune. Mars is at the 29th degree. Mars at the 29th degree is always kind of like, oh, making a big push, right? Okay. And I'm curious to see what we are defending. Mars is going to move into Gemini. Mars will then kind of, again, move into that sextile to Pluto, where we'll get a deeper understanding of our motivations. So this is showing us that we are protecting something that we've been working hard for, right? We're at the 7, so we are well on our way into this suit. We have been building up creative energy or passionate energy, and we're now defending the right to continue this energy. People may want what we have and may try to come and take it from us. People may dislike what we have and want to take us down for it. Let's see what else is going on here to gain more insight into that story. A situation culminating now. Okay, 8 of Pentacles reversed. I think we've seen this show up recently, and we're looking at pulling back from something, pulling back from effort we've been putting into something. Maybe that's kind of interesting for a full moon, where we're typically putting in energy to get to the full moon. Does this mean, all right, let's see some different interpretations of this. Does this mean that what we've been working hard at isn't working out? We saw the cycle unfolding as the Queen of Pentacles, so I'm hopeful that that's not necessarily what this means. However, Jupiter's in Gemini right now, okay? Venus is making that sextile to Jupiter in Gemini. Jupiter in Gemini has us trying to do the most. Jupiter in Gemini is ruling Saturn in Pisces. They are going to square inevitably, all right? We might be feeling that energy starting to ramp up. Jupiter might be trying to give Saturn so many ideas of what responsibility looks like. And it might just be that some of the, like maybe we're planting a lot of seeds and maybe we see that some of the efforts we've been putting in doesn't pan out. Maybe that's not a bad thing. Maybe we've been, again, kind of casting a wide net and trying to see like, okay, what's going to stick and what's not going to stick. And maybe it becomes clear at this full moon that what we're trying to get to stick isn't going to stick, or some of what we're putting effort into just isn't for us at this time. Maybe a more positive, hopeful interpretation of this is that we're able to put something down. Maybe we have put in so much effort into something that we're done. Like we finish. There's not necessarily a finishing energy here, but there's like a do less. There's like a do less energy. Maybe we're able to do less. Okay, so maybe we've been putting in these efforts. We've been building up to this full moon. It's the second full moon, right? So we thought about that first full moon at that first degree, right at the top of the season. And we were divesting from things. So maybe this really sees us fully divesting in the sense of what personal energy we're putting into things, right? We saw the 10 of Pentacles reversed, I believe, at the bottom of that pull. And so we were talking about how if we want to build towards something new, we have to first finish separating from something. And that was the big picture something that we were invested in. The final step in divesting is doing less, putting in less effort, or pulling away our efforts altogether from that thing, saying, I'm no longer working for this. Okay, I'm no longer building this into my routine. So I'm hoping that this is some sort of like release from responsibility, that maybe this is where we finally get to see that final piece of divestment taking place, okay? We saw the sun reversed earlier in this cycle, and we talked about like maybe we're still not feeling it, maybe we're still not like getting a sense of how we're gonna actually be the thing that we're trying to be, that we're pushing to be. Putting less energy into what is no longer for us will definitely free us up to put more energy into what is for us. Okay. Whew. How I can make space for this situation or revelation. Oh, pretty. Okay. So a couple different ways. This is like, if I'm putting this down, or if I'm going to put this down, I need to first open myself up to what I'm going to feel as I put this down. Maybe, Pentacles are like, I've been doing this for so long, all right? The 8 is far along the journey. The 10 that we saw at the first Capricorn full moon was, I've just put so much into this, and I've been sustained by this all this time? How am I going to keep divesting from it when this is what has been comfortable, or this has been my sense of self and what I have access to? So perhaps how we make space for doing less and divesting our energy, finally, is to think about, how will this feel for me? This can also be, what emotions have I been waiting to make room for that I haven't had room for yet? And how can I tap into that now with intention and allow that to motivate me to make space for the doing less? And I love the contradiction of making space for doing less. But really, it's like, I've heard myself this week saying, like, there's no time for that. I can't stop doing this. And it's like, that's an attitude from something you've been carrying around this whole time. And if we're gonna kind of make space for new attitudes, right? If we're gonna actually convince ourselves to do less of this, we might need to be motivated by something that's been on the back burner that we've been waiting to feel. This can be connections to friends, potential partners or lovers. This can be just new things I want to feel. I want to be on this beach. I don't want to be here on the farm harvesting, okay? I want to be on the beach. I want to be relaxing, and let me maybe daydream or just allow myself to tap into the emotion of what that could feel like in order to let me let go of this, okay? What I am able to celebrate in the light of this moon. Ooh, that's kind of interesting. When we see this major card in reverse, it tends to suggest that something's out of balance, and that's kind of a funny thing to celebrate, but maybe we're celebrating the getting things back into balance. With this full moon, I can celebrate that as I do less tangibly on the earth, I make space for more emotionally in the water. Feeling really Cancer, Capricorn, am I right? And let's remember that the moon is in detriment in Capricorn. So, and oh my God, I'm remembering the square to the nose that we just talked about. So we might be like, but I must do this, but I must do this. And Cancer's like, baby, we want to feel more, which means we need to do less right now. To make space for feelings, we have to be still and process. We can't just keep working. That's how we distract ourselves from feeling. This moon in detriment that squared the nodes wants us to be more authentic, wants us to be more spontaneous in that Aries North Node. And to do so, we need to put down some of the earth stuff, right? Put down a little bit of the earth stuff and make more room for the water stuff. In this sense, we're celebrating, all right, as I put down some of the practical stuff or the tangible stuff, or again, I'm divesting from something tangible around me that I've been part of, I can focus on what's out of balance. This is something absolutely worthy of celebration. If we're feeling out of balance, if Jupiter is putting too much on your plate, oh my goodness, we need to actually get to this place and focus on this and make room for this larger arc that we are a part of. So we can celebrate making the room for that perhaps, or at least having this brought to our attention and being able to give attention to it now, okay? What we can prepare or identify is ready for release. Ooh, needing to be a master of truth, needing to know everything, needing to know all the answers. As the only court card, this makes me think this is within us, right? This might not be a conversation outside of ourselves. It could be, absolutely. This could be we are divesting our energy from a relationship that expects us to have all the answers, or from someone who thinks they have all the answers, okay? Definitely seeing where this Seven of Wands is coming in now. Maybe we're causing some upset in this. Maybe the things we're divesting from are frantic, or are going to miss us, or are going to recognize their own imbalance. Maybe we think that we can't divest unless we know all the answers, right? Which is such a beautiful, flawed mental trap, okay? If we are, if we're Capricorning and we're like, I have to keep doing this because like, I can't let go of this until I know for sure what's going to happen. That's not really what the North Node is asking us for, right? North Node in Aries is like, you got to just be willing to try stuff. You got to be willing to take a chance. And this moon, as it embraces those squares to that North and South Node, might really trigger us to feel like, but I can't feel safe letting go of that Libra South Node and that like peace and that collaboration that I've been part of, that's where I feel safe. No, boo boo. We're letting go of those things because we've been sacrificing too much of ourselves to those collaborations and those sort of shared ideas to the point where we're unhappy. And we're not actually happy putting in all this energy into this thing, are we? Otherwise, we wouldn't be here, okay? So, we've had such a long narrative with like this divestment story. It feels like this is maybe like the personal step we're able to take. We're defending this decision. We are defending our right to feel and to act on those feelings, okay? Oh my goodness. This is like lighting a fire in me. I'm like, oh my gosh, we have to be able to own this in this moment. Letting go, preparing to release the idea that there is some sort of absolute truth, that like we need to be masters of our intellect or like the intellectual realm right now. Let's let Mars and Pluto in those air signs make that trine and bring us to a deeper understanding within ourselves instinctually. Let's let Mars begin a new journey in Gemini, in finding out information, in being driven to find new answers, okay? Pluto is retrograde in Aquarius and about to dip back to that 29th degree. And really this full moon is pretty much conjunct that Pluto placement. So there's something being asked of us too, to go within and say, you know, there is no absolute truth. I'm learning what that is right now. We are making our way, you know, I mean, we're in the second half of this strength year, right? So we're making our way to some of those answers, perhaps, finally, of what our instincts need to be telling us and how we can be listening to them. And that does mean deviating from whatever intellectualized version of the truth we've felt we have to uphold for ourselves and for others, in particular, being a king and demonstrating this outward. Whoo! Okay. Wowzers, y'all. Let me know how this lands for you in the comments. If you liked this video, please go ahead and show it some love. Please share with those who might be in a place of being ready to pull back their energy from some things that have just been taxing and depleting, and who are working to defend this choice. And subscribe so we can look at that third quarter moon next week and get a sense of how we're going to be releasing this energy. I'll see you then.